father stocks or brother stocks?
You can call me that. No, they call me Brian.
They just call you Brian?
For the most part. Some people call me Pastor, but yeah.
Oh, word. Okay.
Yeah, Brian is good. I don't call people like, hey, plumber Bob. Like,
yeah.
So
I remember when I was going to church, they were like, everything was brother.
Mm-hmm. Some places,
Brother Bobby or brother.
Some places are like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's cool. And some I understand like if you're wanting to be respectful or something like that. Like, I totally understand that. But most of the time it's like, you can just call me Brian. It's good. Word. Like, that's my name. Like, yeah. It's cool.
I'm still like, I still resort to the like Southern thing of like, do I say Mr.?
Yeah, it's called being Mr. polite.
Brian,
yeah,
which is also like not even correct. It wouldn't be Mr. Brian, it'd be Mr. Stocks or like
something like that. Somebody's last name.
But I always go like, is Mr. Brian coming or Mr. Bobby?
yeah, that's
but like
nice.
Bobby's not the last name.
Right. Yeah.
How was your event? Didn't y'all have y'all live stream the Tyson?
Oh fight? Yeah. It's packed. It was great.
Crazy.
Yeah, great, crazy, good times.
Did everything freeze when they were fighting?
Of course.
Like, people were just staring? Like, what is about to happen?
The same experience everybody else had, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that was it.
I saw the highlights for the fight, and it seemed like it was only like 2 rounds, really, where Tyson was doing anything.
Yeah.
But he came out quick.
It's one of those things, like, you're watching it, and you're going, man, I don't know. I don't know why I let myself get, like, excited about this. Like,
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, really, I was thinking about it last night. It's like, man, there's probably only 2 Jake Paul fights that were like even worth watching. You know, that were like when he fought the basketball player guy, whatever that guy's name was. Yeah, Nate Robinson. And then when he like starched Woodley, like
literally the 2 I thought of when you said that.
Those were the only ones worth watching.
Yeah, because one was a jump. You're like, well, this is actually an athlete. So what could that look like? And then one was like a MMA champion. So you're like, we know he has hands.
Yeah. Every other fight that he's ever done, it's like, I have not cared about, but but when you got Tyson in there, you're like, oh, maybe, like maybe, and then you're like, oh yeah, I forgot he's 58. Like everybody's like, well, he's old, but it's like, no, he's still Tyson. It's like, no, he's 58.
Yeah, that is true. Like,
and it was late at night.
I thought maybe with the Fury fight that he had with Tommy, I thought maybe that would be interesting, and maybe we would get past the, can he fight a boxer?
Right, but it wasn't even that exciting of a fight.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like, oh, man, that was a really great fight. It was like, it looked like a couple guys who were not really that great at boxing.
Like, I think I might try boxing tonight.
Sure.
Like,
don't get me wrong. Jake Paul could punch my head off my shoulders. I'm certain.
Oh, yeah.
Like, but I'm not. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever let myself get excited about a Jake Paul fight ever again.
Yeah, like watching some of the stuff, because, you know, he's such an influencer. So he'll like collab with other influencers that are big in this space. So he'll make content with them. And the content leading up to this event was like a bunch of like people going through his training camp. So it's like he does that and he makes that look like he's a professional that way for sure. Like he regiments his life correctly.
But yeah, best marketer ever.
For sure.
Might be the best marketer ever.
Yeah.
But
like, he'll end up being one of those like Mark Cuban guys where he's like probably eventually will be like silent partners in businesses. Not so much right now.
Yeah.
He's very much the face of everything.
Yeah, for sure.
But
well, what's interesting is like, how long are you going to do this, man? Like, how long are you going to do this? Like, you're running out of old guys that you can fight, and I don't really think you want to fight young guys. Like, I think this is your little niche that you want to do because you can make a ton of money off of it. So how much longer is this going to last before you do something else?
I was just talking to somebody about this at work, and I was like, his blueprint is aim as high as you possibly can on whatever list. Yeah. And normally it's a name list. It's not necessarily like a skill list. So you're like, who's accomplished the most that is beatable? It's never like I know they say Canelo's next, but it's like you got Tyson, so then it's like now you're at the top of where Tyson would be, and then you're like, shoot as high as you can from there, because you couldn't have gotten Canelo before this. Yeah. Maybe you can now, but literally Canelo's going to piece you apart. And that's not, even with the weight difference, it doesn't matter. He's legit skilled and in his prime.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm sure he'll make a lot of noise that he wants to fight Canelo. Yeah. But he's never going to fight Canelo. That's not going to happen.
Like, the fight to make, if I'm Jake and I'm like, most money, most winnable, is got to be that Conor fight because you're so outside.
Yeah, if he can get Conor McGregor in the ring with him, sure.
Yeah,
like
he just. I just saw this like minutes ago where it was a clip from the post press conference, but it's also like a tweet or something where he was saying, Conor, I don't think he can make 170, Jake, but he said, obviously I can't go down to 170, but let's do open class MMA, whatever weight you want to weigh in. I get to weigh whatever I want to weigh in. We'll do MMA. I think that's for talk to drag him into boxing.
To try to see,
breadcrumb him over here and be like, let's do the boxing first.
Yeah.
And he said that with Nate, and it's like they never did the MMA, but I think Nate probably had something to do with the no MMA thing.
Yeah.
Because if Nate at all, or if Jake at all makes it look close with Nate, so disrespectful.
Yeah.
To Nate's
if it's MMA,
yeah, you're gonna be like, what happened? You're like, people will say he's washed, even though he is gonna be able to beat 98% of the world
without a doubt.
Yeah.
No, I think it'll go the same way. Like I don't know if he'll ever fight McGregor, but him and McGregor John back and forth, like that'll get a lot of eyes. That'll get a lot of attention.
That and literally, I was saying this, like you aim as high as you can. So you got Tyson, and I was like, after that, who would be the most interesting in his weight class? Because right now, technically, he's a heavyweight.
Mm-hmm.
Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
The most like mouth.
Yeah, but I don't.
It wouldn't be an interesting fight because he would literally destroy him. You know.
Sure.
Like somebody I was talking to said
He's
Deontay
so
Wilder,
huge,
and I was like,
though.
he would kill him.
Yeah, he's so
like,
huge.
even though Wilder has been knocked out, I think twice in the last few fights, still.
Yeah.
Jake might have power, but he ain't knocking out heavyweights.
No, not like that.
He couldn't even knock out Tyson.
No.
And that was an 8-round, 2-minute per round fight. And it's like, that's in favor of Jake to knock Tyson out.
With a 58-year-old man. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, you're not gonna fight these guys.
I don't know if he avoided trying to knock him out. Like, I saw a bunch of the clubbing punches. Not so clean strikes. It was more like clubbing. So it made it seem like he wasn't so much trying to knock him out. And maybe he would wobble him and then like, oh, we're in a fight.
Yeah.
To make it look close.
Yeah.
To try to drag another person
in. The post-conference, he was like, yeah, I didn't want to hurt anybody that didn't need to be hurt. And it's like, I don't.
Yeah. Well, you heard Netflix's reputation. Have you heard the stuff about the lagging and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Did y'all have problems?
Oh, yeah. Everybody
I didn't watch it live. So
yeah. I think it was a unanimous. Everybody had those issues.
Yeah, they got to fix that because they have Christmas NFL.
Mm-hmm.
You don't play with NFL.
No.
Like boxing, this technically is boxing, but it doesn't exist in the boxing world.
Yeah.
So you can play with that because you're making your own thing up.
Well, and also like Jake Paul and Mike Tyson aren't a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yeah.
So if a multi-billion-dollar industry is coming to you and going like, yeah, you can host a game that's going to be a big game, but it better not lag.
Yeah.
Like, or you're done. And to me, I'm like, if Amazon can figure it out, like Netflix can figure it out.
Yeah, Amazon just like, let's try anything, and they become great at whatever they do, whether or not you like that. But it is interesting. I wonder really behind the scenes how much money Netflix actually put into the thing, because all the branding was Netflix MVP, which is Jake Paul.
Yeah.
Do you think to sweeten the pot to do the deal with Netflix, Jake was like, I'll front a lot of the money?
I don't know. There's probably somewhere where you could find some of that, but that would make sense because it was just the fact that it wasn't pay-per-view, that it was easy access for everybody.
Yeah.
Like I would assume that Netflix dumped some money into that because they wanted the eyes on their platform.
Yeah.
So plus everybody has Netflix anyway already.
That's true.
But or you got your mom's password or something.
Yeah, you got somebody's like family plan or whatever.
Yeah,
I remember when they were trying to implement that, like you can't log in your account in several houses.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know.
Either,
I don't know if they pulled that off, but I'm like, man, the internet's not gonna like that. Like, and people are gonna find a way to get around that for sure.
Like even the VPN thing, I think you can get your way around. Like I'll be on a VPN or something and get Netflix.
Yeah.
I think that's the way a lot of people were able to watch it last
time. Yeah. You can just say you're here. Like I'm at this location.
Yeah.
And Netflix is like, oh, cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that works or how that ended up playing out for them. I don't know what they could do because it's like they are, I think by a large margin, at least double the closest streaming.
They're the biggest name in town for sure.
Me and Hilton looked at it one time where it literally was like Netflix way up here, and then it was a huge drop to like Hulu or maybe Amazon second.
I was gonna say, besides YouTube, Netflix has got to be the like the largest streaming platform.
And how do you not get like maybe not stock or whatever the right word is for like YouTube's best guy? Like, yo, when Netflix come over here, we'll pay you good.
Just poach them.
Poach them.
Why are you not doing that? Why are you not doing that?
Yeah,
for sure.
Because they did the Tom Brady thing, and I think there was even lagging there. Mm-hmm. And then I think this wasn't there. No, there was a Love Is Blind was before that too. I think this is the third live,
like big live event that had some lagging on it.
Yeah, which is not good if everybody and their mom's talking about that.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
That is just as big of a story as the Jake Tyson.
Yeah, but like, how long do you think that's going to last for? Everybody's going to be like, man, there was lagging, and then like,
It's probably going to be a fly-by-night.
Tomorrow afternoon. They're playing college football today, man. Like, exactly. Guess what? No one's going to remember.
And dude,
like,
not a big, like, tattletale guy here, but, dude, somebody on YouTube has figured out how to stream college football. Mm-hmm. And by somebody, I mean, like, a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, if you want to pay for, like, YouTube Premium, or not Premium, YouTube TV, mm-hmm. I did that for the first 2 months. And every day I would jump on YouTube before I had to get on YouTube TV to watch, and it would be like the game is already on.
You find somebody streaming it.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm spending, I think it was like 50 something a month extra. Yeah. Just to watch the college on one, so 4 times a month. I'm like, what? You do not allegedly need YouTube TV.
Yeah, allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly, there's other streaming services out there too that you could just take a look at, other websites that exist that you can just watch that I may or may not know anything about.
Somebody talk about it too.
Guys talk. Word gets around. Like, I don't know.
I could have misunderstood, but I'm pretty sure I got it.
Check out Stream East. I don't know what's that.
Dude, it is wild how one will be like the premium one for a while, and then it'll drop, and everybody's like, "What is the next one?" And then that one rises through the ashes, just like
You just got to wait for the FBI or whoever it is to like go and shut them down, and then
it's like the old LimeWire, and then there's like FrostWire, and then like whatever came after that.
Yeah, one after another.
I think eventually those things aren't. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but like LimeWire fell apart because the industry figured it out. Yeah. They're like, we can adjust to that, and they did. Yeah. I don't know how you're going to adjust to the pay-per-view model.
Yeah, that whole torrent thing was always so weird. Yeah. But
now they're live doing it with pay-per-views, but I don't know how they adjust to that.
I don't know.
Like, how could the industry adjust to that? That is pay-per-view's been around as long as we've been alive, I guess.
For sure.
I don't remember when it started, but like as long as I can remember.
Yeah, pay-per-view was a thing.
Yeah.
I remember the first time we ever got a pay-per-view fight. It was Tyson Lennox Lewis. That was the first like pay-per-view fight like my dad ever got, and I thought it was so cool. Because all of our neighbors came over, like all the dads, all the guys were over there watching the Tyson fight, and it was like, oh, this is awesome. And like I remember, like, man, I want to be able to do this. And so like I love hosting fights at the house and everybody watching.
Yeah, there's something about the vibe of the room or the house.
Heck yeah.
Just like the hangout feels so good. The first pay-per-view I ever remember, and literally to this day, other than being an adult in my own life, never got a pay-per-view as a child. Mm-hmm. So I was at my mom's house, like my grandma. Mm-hmm.
That's the relationship. Yep.
Yeah. That's how that works. And I was in the living room by myself. They were all in their rooms. And I was like, so I have free reign of the TV. Mm-hmm. And back in the day, you would like call ahead and set up the pay-per-view. It was not like I guess eventually it became a button on your, like you could work the TVs
not when we were kids.
No,
you had to call. Yeah.
So, and I remember it being on the channel, like it was like a, I don't know, 100 something channel. Mm-hmm. And I was like, maybe if I sit on there, they'll accidentally forget. And I've done that so many times as a kid, waiting for a wrestling pay-per-view. One time, it played the first like 12 minutes of a walkout, and I think it was like Undertaker and someone.
Yeah.
But it stopped like as they're like facing off.
Oh man!
And I was like,
you had that moment where you're like, oh, I'm getting it for free. Somebody didn't know.
Dude, two feelings. One, I was like, oh my God, did I accidentally pay for this? I'm in so much trouble, and I'll watch it until they get to me.
Yeah.
Like, the clock is ticking. I'm feeling the hair on my neck stand. I'm like, oh no.
They're going to walk in this room. I'm about to get lit up, bro. Yeah.
And the second feeling is, as soon as it went off, I was like, did I just get away with something?
Yeah.
Like, is somebody gonna call the house?
Yeah.
Somebody knows I just saw.
Yeah.
It.
Oh no.
I didn't just witness a crime.
They're gonna call. Yeah, because you were like really afraid of the government. Then like they had all those little FBI warnings and stuff before videos that you'd watch. Like you put in the movie, the VHS tape, and they show the FBI
screen.
Yeah, that one, and you're like, oh man, if I record this, I'm gonna go to jail 100%.
Dude, I remember there's a story. Me and my dad and I think my sister Tiffany went to a convenience store with my Uncle Wayne. We're leaving the convenience store. They went in together. Me and my sister are sitting in the back seat. Mm-hmm. They come out of the convenience store really fast. Not knowing at the time this was not real. Mm-hmm. They had talked to the cashier and was like, hey, we're going to run out of here like we robbed the place.
Oh, no.
Okay, but obviously we just bought all this. Mm-hmm. But our kids are in their car. We're going to freak them out. Ran to the car. We drove off like they burned out. Like we're all the way home.
Yeah.
We get into the trailer and he's like, everybody get down. Shut the fuck up. Turn the lights off. Literally, we're all laying on the ground. And he's like, the cops can hear us. They're on their way. They had convinced us, and I don't even understand how I knew what he was talking about at the time. But he said they had a mic on like a cord and they had slung it down the road so it's in front of our house and it can pick up hundreds of feet of audio.
Yeah.
So he's like, you can't even talk in the house. They can hear us. So we were whispering and we're just like, well, what happens? And what he had done, he had crawled his way to the front door and he's like, I'll protect the front door in case something happens. So he's banging. He's banging on the front door like they're at the door.
Yeah.
And dude had us convinced. Yeah. It's in the middle of the night. He's wasted. My uncle's kind of drunk. Like you were so scared of the law because you just had no idea like the extent of things.
That's for sure. So now like you're terrified of police all because of this
dude,
one thing that happened when you were a kid.
Dude, I'm like, every room is bugged. My phone is bugged. Like everything's bugged. So now that's way more realistic. Yeah. Like, things they have access to. Yeah. But like back then I'm like, dude, we didn't even have cell phones yet.
Yeah. Also, you may or may not actually get arrested for doing that kind of thing. So if anybody's locked up in prison right now, like, sorry about that.
Yeah, that's...
Sorry about us joking about it.
Sorry my dad did that. That's wild of him. Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Making light of your situation. Being locked up by the feds.
Yeah, dude.
for recording a VHS tape that you got from Blockbuster.
Yeah, dude.
That's wild.
It is crazy to think like that is a thing, and now streaming is like so loose.
Yeah.
Loose and fast. Like everything is just like, hey, anybody know how I can watch this? Like it's openly shared in group chat.
Yeah, you just ask it. You can put it on X or put it on your Facebook. Hey, I'm looking for a link. Anybody got one?
Dude, and I also remember when Dana, and this had to be like a year or two ago, whenever he was going hard on
when
that.
He was like,
he's like, anybody caught watching it, you're going to jail.
He's like, you're going to go to jail.
And for a split second, I was like, but how would you know everybody's just watching?
Yeah, that was just...
You might see numbers.
He was pinging that childhood trauma. Yeah. You're like, oh man, Dana says he's going to go to
Vietnam flashback. She was like, boom, boom, boom on the door. I'm just like, oh, are we in trouble?
That's amazing.
Yeah. So weirdly enough, it made me look for another one.
Yeah.
Like not the one that I allegedly saw.
Yeah. Heads up, you don't know this, but this is actually a sting operation. You have the right to remain silent.
I was wondering why you felt so buff. You must be in training or something.
Yeah, dude.
You like pull your little thing.
Yeah, I got the.
Like, sorry, dude.
I'm wearing a wire, dude. Sorry, they were gonna get me. I had to get you.
That's like the smoothest transition too, because that's like not what I was talking to you about through text.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're like, dude, we got him. I think I can get him in a conversation, dude. I think
we'll get him. We'll get him like this.
Yeah. He's easy. He talks.
He will totally admit to committing a crime.
Yeah. That is wild. I wonder if they'll ever be able to go back and be able to get people for things like that. like retroactively.
Well, your podcast is like this is kind of like satire-ish, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like
Yeah.
it's satire.
It's all alleged.
Yeah.
Nothing I've ever said is true.
You know? I've heard that about you.
Big liar guy. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, dude. But I think also whenever they got out of the whole cable box industry, even though I'm pretty sure cable still exists, I don't know.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, like
you can pay for it.
We're now paying comparable for sure. If not, if you're really into sports and everything else, dude, you're for sure paying way more than you used to.
Without a doubt.
Like, what do you got? What you got going?
Man, I probably have a little bit of everything. I get on the free ones though. Like if it's like, hey, since you have this service, like whatever your cell phone provider is, you get this for free, and you're like, oh, nice. Word. And so I try to do that, but I got kids, so I got everything. I do the ESPN, Disney, Hulu bundle thing. I do that, and then we got Netflix, and then we got everything. I think I have Paramount. I think I got Paramount. No, I don't have Paramount, but I have Amazon because everybody has Amazon Prime.
Peacock is like the cheapest one.
I didn't.
No,
I got it for the Olympics, and then I dropped it after the Olympics. I was like, "There's nothing on here that's gonna fire me up." But I did get Paramount Plus though because I wanted to see. I think it's called 1883.
The whole Yellowstone thing. I heard somebody breaking this down the other day as like, if you are trying to get into Yellowstone, you have to have like multiple streaming services.
Yeah, because it's all over the place.
Yeah, how is that possible?
I don't know.
And how, if you have Paramount Plus, can you not access all of it?
I don't know.
You have Paramount, the company that does the show, plus.
Yeah.
Like you have what they do plus other things,
plus everything else. Yeah, no, I got Paramount because I wanted to watch that 1883 from the Yellowstone like prequel thing, the beginning of the story. It was good TV, bro.
I heard they have like 4 or 5 ones that are like numbers.
I don't know. I can't keep up. I just watched the one.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. They show you how it ends at the very beginning.
They show you how the entire series ends?
Or how the 1883 one.
Oh, word. Okay.
They show the first scene. You don't realize it, but the first scene is like the last scene.
Huh.
And you're just like, oh, that's... So it's opening up and she's talking. And what's great too, she's got that like real monotone, but like southern sounding, like, we were on the range. Like just talking about living on the prairie.
She just sounds hungry and thirsty.
Bro, I don't know, but it like sucked me in immediately. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
It was good. It was good. It was a good series.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that, but the person I was trying to watch it with just immediately was just like, nah, this is not it.
I watch stuff like that, and I'm like, how am I here?
Yeah, how did I get Luke?
How did I make it?
Yeah.
Like, my great grandfather, what was he doing? He wasn't doing that. Because I'm not doing that. No way.
Yeah.
It's like, so I look at some of these like old school, like, oh, whether it's the Wild West, like, or whether it's like, you know, like medieval type stuff.
Yeah,
and you see how like hard and nasty everything was. And I'm just like, how am I here? Like,
do you
make
think
any
that's
sense.
how the future generations will look back on us and be like, how are they just doing like things we think are so normal and not like gross? Like back then, showers were like frowned upon sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like you had 2 showers a week,
or
a month or whatever.
Like, it's like gross. There'll probably be a lot more of that than it is like when I look at the 1800s, like cowboys out there being like, those guys are like friggin' bad to the bone. What
they might do is like look at how we're holding phones, and like phones will be. I mean, phones probably won't exist. It'll be like in your eye or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, they used to touch your butt and touch your phone.
It'll be a lot of like, what were they doing?
Yeah.
It'll be a lot of that. No one will be like, those guys, they really had it together.
It's that is a weird thing. Like we don't ever look back and we're like, that was really the gold. Like that, the way they had that done or laid out or living life. Other than like the freedom of like maybe the 90s where
we could get it. We can get a little nostalgic about the 90s. Yeah. And like, no, 90s were legit. Like everything was great about the 90s. Like for us.
Yeah. For
other places, 90s weren't so great, bro.
There's some things going on.
Yeah, but for us, it was pretty good.
Yeah. Dude, but speaking of fights, tonight, I mean, we're recording this Saturday morning, but tonight, John Jones, Stipe, Chandler, Oliveira, and then you got also, and I know that I'm just saying the big fights, but like, you know what it is. Casual fans are just listening to this. But you got Bo Nickel versus Paul Craig as well.
Yeah, I definitely have Bo, Oliveira, Jones. Those are the
a buddy of mine at work.
Not controversial picks, by the way.
Yeah.
Those are pretty much what everybody's saying.
Apparently, if you bet on all the underdogs, you bet like $25, you'll win like 2,000 something.
Oh, I bet. I'm sure.
Like that's crazy. That's almost like why not?
Yeah, why not throw $25?
Yeah, work an extra hour or two at work.
Yeah,
and you're like, this is just for that bet.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if it pays out, that's crazy.
Because I guess it is possible. I don't see Bo losing that fight, but I mean Chandler could come out and beat Oliveira. That's possible.
Yeah.
Like I think
all of these fights are not impossible for the underdog to win.
No,
it's not impossible because
if Stipe catches Jones, like it's gonna be over.
Yeah.
Like,
and we've never really seen Jones like super wobbled. We've seen him get hit where he wasn't exactly I wasn't exactly ready for that, but never like he's being headhunted after he's wobbled and he's like barely standing up. That's never happened.
It was just
that can happen.
It was just so crazy when he fought what's his name from France.
Cyril Gane?
Yes, Cyril Gane. Like that wasn't even a fight, man. That was ridiculous.
That was wild because
like
you didn't really learn that much.
No, he just worked him over, and it was over as soon as it started. And so you're like, well, what's John Jones? What is he actually like at heavyweight?
Yeah,
and like it's one of those things. Like Stipe is hands down probably one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah,
but again, he hasn't fought in how long? So it's one of those things too where you're like, and I get it. John Jones, John Jones hasn't fought in a second either. Yeah. But even then, you're going to see this fight, and you're like, are you even going to be able to see what John Jones is like at heavyweight too? Is this going to be another fast one? Like, is this what he's like at heavyweight? Like,
dude, you know what's crazy too is if he makes quick work of Stipe, like it's a sub or something really fast, and say he retires, we're still going to look back and be like, we don't really know what he did.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah,
like he beat two guys, but the time in a weight class really makes a big difference.
Oh, for sure.
Like if you're doing impressive things, and I know everybody's gonna be on this dude because he's so hyped right now, but Pereira, like he's put in a lot of time in now each weight class.
Yeah,
and you've seen a lot of them defending takedowns. Obviously his stand up, but with John, it's like the only little taste we got was so short, 2 minutes. And not a lot really happened in that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of feeling out on the feet, and then
Jones Pereira would be an amazing fight to watch.
Crazy because
that would be an amazing fight to watch.
I think what's weird too about Alex is like, no matter the weight class, he always looks big. He always looks. He never really that much smaller.
He looks like one of the scariest people on the planet, man.
Yeah.
Like he's just got that look. Where he's like, oh no.
Like he's on a train, you're on that train. That's the only way you see your family for the rest of your life. He's on the train, you're like, damn, I'm gonna miss them.
It's like, yeah,
I'm not gonna get on this train.
You're like, I should have said goodbye.
Yeah.
That's gonna be bad.
He should play like a new age version. Maybe not this exact story, but like how Michael Myers is.
Oh.
Like you don't say nothing in the film at all.
The dude is
never.
Yeah, the dude is terrifying.
You just look.
He's a terrifying.
He's got
human.
that like I shouldn't be here look.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever been anybody stand on the other side of the cage with him and be like, I got this.
Yeah.
They're all like, all right.
They're like, am I going to remember this
all
tomorrow?
Right. Like, this is happening. Yeah. Like, that's got to be terrifying, man. Absolutely terrifying.
Imagine that name comes across your desk. You're like, you are a fighter. Like, you love fighting.
Mm-hmm.
That comes across your desk, and you're like, how many zeros are on this?
Yeah, and where am I at in my career?
Yeah.
Where am I at in my career? How what's the payday gonna look like?
Imagine the shock on the first couple guys where they're like, "Oh, you're coming in MMA?
Mm-hmm.
It's about to be a world of hurt
like,
for you."
Oh yeah, you're just a kickboxer.
Yeah.
This will be easy.
Yeah.
It's like nope.
Yeah.
It's for him. It's that how he controls that distance. How he always stays out and goes back in.
His arms are so low. It's deceptive,
and
there's not a lot of like tail to what he does.
He keeps them low, and you don't realize how long he is.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to watch.
Yeah, and then it's like he talked a lot about, or I say John talked a lot about, like, if he does win, he doesn't want to fight Tom. Mm-hmm. Like, that's such a big, like, hinge point in his career. And, like, even at the press conference, they were like, whoever wins, you're facing Tom. Like, that is it. Mm-hmm. And John was like, yeah, right, dude. Y'all calm down. Like, the crowd started getting crazy. I think John is big enough that if he does defend the title and he does it, like, convincingly, he will probably talk in or behind the scenes to Dana and be like, yo, look, I want Alex and then I'm out.
Yeah.
So it's either Alex or I'm out now.
Or I'm out now, yeah. You can either make this fight.
Yeah.
Or I'm done.
And I think Dana would give him the respect to be like, yeah, we'll make that. Because why wouldn't you? That's like, what is the bigger money fight? It's got to be Alex, money-wise.
Yeah. I mean, and I heard it was Jones in the press conference was saying, like Aspinall is just hot right now. Like, I thought he had a really good point where he's like, man, I've been doing this for so long. Like, this guy's hot right now. Yeah. Like, he's not going to be hot stuff a year from now or 2 years from now.
And I hate that he disrespected him like that, because I think Tom is legit one of the people that has the ability to continue this for a very long time. I don't think this is a short-lived thing. Mm-hmm. Like, he actually has the tried and true skill. And yes, he is running through a lot of these people, and that is not normally, like, something you hang your hat on, as far as, like, you normally believe in a contender when you can see every part of their game. So you would be like, well, we can at least attest to this because of this fight went this way. Right. We got to see this part of him.
Who was the last guy that Aspinall beat? I can't even remember.
Sergey Pavlovich?
Yeah.
However you say that last name. Pavlovich?
Who else has he fought, though? Like
Curtis Blades, he knocked him out. But before that, he lost to him because he tore his ACL.
Right, yeah.
And he's fought a few contenders. This is like earlier. I can't remember right off who are the bigger names other than them two. Those are pretty big, because like Curtis Blades beats pretty much everybody in the top 10 that isn't the top 3.
Right.
Like almost always.
Yeah.
And Sergey was...
He had a lot of hype behind him too, but...
Yeah, like he was doing, I mean, pretty well. And then I think he got knocked out the last 2 times.
It's just one of those things, like that division just it isn't super deep, you know?
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like, this is going to sound ridiculous for me to say, but like, it doesn't seem like if you're that level of an athlete, if you're that level of a fighter, it doesn't seem hard to be in the top 4, top 3, because the division, the weight class isn't that deep, you know?
Yeah.
So it's...
You string like 2 or 3 together, and if they look crazy...
Yeah, and then it's like, well, hey, do you want a title shot? Or, hey, you want to fight for the interim? Yeah. And it's like, well, that seems very fast, you know?
Yeah, if you are breaking it down, like, if you're a purist, it is hard for it not to be Tom next, because it's like, then why did we make an interim belt?
Yeah, then why did we do that?
Because he's won the belt, and he's already defended it. Like, he won it against Sergey, and then defended it against Curtis.
Mm-hmm.
You should... Like, they named... John the champion because yes, he won the belt off of Cyril, but like in the announcing of it, Bruce Buffer was like undisputed, and that is not true.
Yeah,
it is disputed
for sure.
He's had 2, like he had the interim title fight and defended it, all while John hasn't fought in that time frame.
Yeah, hasn't even fought once.
Like he has literally fought 3 times, I think, maybe 4, because I can't remember when in 22 John fought, but arguably 3 fights since John has been sitting out because of the injury. Mm-hmm. And I'm not at all trying to disrespect John. He's earned his place. He is the greatest.
Yeah.
Like, look at it. Literally, you can take any of them opponents and be like, they are all awesome.
Yeah.
They're great at what they do. Everybody has their place. All of them, arguably Hall of Famers. Like, yes, Tom doesn't have that record. And looking at Tom's, like, course of opponents, there are some, like, well, one legend for sure, which is Andrei Arlovsky.
Yeah.
Which was an ex-champion. Everybody else hasn't won anything, like belt-wise.
Yeah.
So he has only beat one person like that. I still think Tom is really good, but it's like there's not a lot at heavyweight.
Yeah.
Like you were saying.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, how are you going to, like, there's not a bunch of names you're going to string together and be like, oh, well, this guy's really, like, when you look at like lightweight, there's a ton of big names that like, oh yeah, you can make that fight and this fight and this fight and this fight and this guy beat this guy, but this guy lost to this guy, and like that gets real interesting. But then when you're at heavyweight, you're like, man, there's just not the like Francis left, so like, what are we talking about?
What's
like,
crazy about what you're saying too is like lightweight has the same feel for like how heavyweight plays out. Heavyweight, you can lose, does not matter.
Mm-hmm.
Lightweight right now seems the same way.
Yeah, like,
because they're all big names.
Yeah, because there's just
everybody's
big names.
made a name.
Yeah, they're so marketable guys.
Yeah, like literally, Justin Gaethje just had one of the nastiest being knocked out moments of all time.
Oh yeah,
at the pinnacle, UFC 300.
Yeah.
Nobody doesn't want to see him fight next.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody's equally as stoked.
Yeah,
this is the literally anti-problem of boxing. Boxing, somebody loses at all,
and they're done.
They're done.
Yeah,
you'll never see them.
Yeah, that guy's a bum.
Yeah,
like,
unless you're a fan of them and you watch them on whatever, Tubi, or whatever. But then you'll watch every MMA, UFC fight. If you love somebody in MMA, it doesn't matter because it's always exciting. Typically, you know, if a person is exciting, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you watch them.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
They can lose. Like literally, Connor's lost what? 5 of the last 6 or something like that? Yeah, I was going to say
every one of them recently.
Yeah, he's only beaten Cowboy in his last crazy run of years.
Yeah, but if he fights in the UFC again, everybody's going to be like, yeah.
Literally everybody that knows UFC will watch that fight. Absolutely. Period, just to know. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's a good product. Like
it is.
Shout out to the UFC for making a product like that.
It is. Yeah,
like dude, you can have a guy that lose 5 fights in a row and everybody will pay to see him again because the product is good. We want to watch it.
Tony Ferguson lost what 8
over and
8
over
in a
and
row?
over again. Gets kicked in the face.
Yeah,
so hard
crazy
by Chandler. Crazy. It was insane. And then everybody's like, well, towards the end there, after that, I was like, I don't want to see Tony fight.
Yeah, like if you genuinely care about the sport and the people in it, there's a lot of people
you're like,
you'll
don't
see
do
and you're
that.
like, I don't know if you should fight again.
Yeah, it's like you won't be able to talk plain after this.
Yeah.
Like you barely string some sentences together now.
That's how you know if somebody is really a fan is you'll talk to them and they'll openly tell you how they want the next fight to go for the person. Like, for example, Max. I want him to take a good 8-10 months off. Take
easily.
A good amount of time off.
Yeah.
Fight next year sometime. Don't try to come back soon and do the BMF title. Like, take your time.
I think even Max needs to start looking like, how many more fights do I even want to do?
Do super fights.
Like, which fights do I want? And these are the fights that I'll do. And here's the last, maybe I'll do 2, maybe 3 if it could be this one, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because Max has been doing it forever.
Hall of Famer.
Forever.
Hall of Famer.
So it's just, even though he's younger than I am, but it's like, wow. Hey, I think he's only 36.
I think he's even younger than that.
He might be.
Max, I think, is still in his 20s.
Is he 34? No, Max Holloway? No, he's in his 30s.
What do you want to say?
I'll back off at 36 and go to 34.
I think that's a fair. I'm going to say, because I can't see it yet, I'm going to say 32.
All right.
Let's see. Of course, I didn't put an age. That's fine. 32. So isn't he technically in his prime right now? Age-wise?
You would think.
You say that. It's just an average.
You would think, but he's been fighting since he was 18 in the UFC.
In the UFC?
Yeah, in the UFC since he was 18.
That's crazy.
That's a long time, man. That's a long time. So even at 32, he's got to be thinking, how much longer do I want to do this?
Yeah.
How many more times am I going to fight like this?
And again, one of them people, look at his record. Almost all the people he fought, maybe not all Hall of Famers, but all people you want to see fight.
Max Holloway could have been a Hall of Famer a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Much less now.
Let's go with your theory, 2 to 3 fights. One of them, in my opinion, has to be the Conor fight. Let Max get that win back.
Yeah.
Because you got Conor, 2 or 3 fights into his career period, or a UFC career.
Yeah, UFC.
That would be sick.
Yeah.
Because you're going to see Max tool him up.
That's got to be one. Yeah, that's got to be one of them.
Max, in my opinion, back then, when they fought, was not as great of a striker or known to be a great striker. Conor still was kind of like the Paddy thing where people were like, yeah, he's good at striking. Paddy's good at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So they thought he was going to piece him up and knock him out. That's not how it went. Like, I think Max could, like, potentially make him look silly.
Probably.
Which would be insane to think of Conor on the feet looking silly.
Yeah, but it's not. It's just this thing, man. Like, it's as hard as it is, like, you gotta let go of the idea that Conor McGregor is Conor McGregor anymore.
Oh, yeah,
You gotta let go of it.
You gotta take them where they're at, not where they've been.
Yeah.
Like, it is tough.
Yeah. You just have to accept that this is the version of them that they are. Like, hey, and that's advice for life, bro.
That is.
Like, hey, you want to not feel let down by people? Just accept that the version that you have of them in their head isn't really them.
Yeah.
Like, and then you're like,
you're also always probably running a highlight reel of whoever you think of. You're like, yeah, this is their greatest moment.
Yeah,
or
for sure.
Sometimes they're lowlights. Like, this is their lowest moments.
Yeah, I think it just depends on how you're feeling about that person.
Yeah. Like this.
Yeah, we're not talking about fighters anymore, brother. We're talking about life. We're talking about life now.
I think what is weird about Conor, he is in a position where if he doesn't have fighting, like, yes, he has a family, but he is the type of, like, caged animal. It's like, where else would he exist?
It's like, does he have a family? I mean, he has a family, but, like...
He has offspring, for sure. As a person he did that with,
too. Dude, they're peppered all over the place.
Yeah. Dude, but, like, how else would he exist? In what world, what realm does he... I mean, he's got money, so it doesn't matter anymore, but, like, you're going to have court cases till the day you die.
Right. 100%, though. I do think that he has a decent shot at, like, films. I think he does, like Hollywood films. Like,
he's got you know how a young kitten is before you neuter it? It's like crazy. Wow. You neuter it and it calms down quite a bit. It still has a little bit of...
Yeah.
There needs to be some version of that. That needs to happen in his life. And I don't know how his neutering
but it did, remember? And everybody, when he was nice, Conor, because he was trying to sell Proper 12. You know?
So he needs a product.
So he was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was nice, Conor. He was real nice to Dustin. Everything's real good. And you're like, oh, man, maybe I like this version of Conor McGregor. And then he loses, and then he was like, then he sells Proper 12, and then he's like...
Your wife sent my DM.
Yeah, and then he just loses it, dude. And I'm like, there he was.
What would he sell now?
I don't know. He has to come up with a different product, but...
He needs to come up with a stay faithful pill.
What it is movies. If he gets in movies, he can be good, because
I heard
his movies will make money, and then he can behave himself because he's trying to sell the box office.
I don't know. I heard something about the Roadhouse film where when he showed up, it was the Conor show.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
So everything was like on his thing. That is not going to work in Hollywood for long. Like, you might have people pick and choose because they want him in the film so badly.
Yeah.
But he's one of them people that it doesn't matter who's talking to him. It's him. He is.
It was so funny watching him, and what was the other actor?
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal. It was so funny watching the two of them do press for that movie. Like,
because Jake is kind of fluid.
Jake is like, he's done it 10,000 times for a movie, and Conor walks in, he's geeked on coke, so obviously, and he's just like trying to talk. You know?
It's wild for Conor too to be like always looked at as the prime. Like, you need to be the one talking. I'm the show.
Yeah,
and to be next to like a much bigger movie star.
Yeah,
like a movie star.
Yeah, movie star.
Done great films. Like, people look at him and definitely in the top 20 for sure of like actors right now. But then you have like, you got to sit quiet as they're asking him questions, and you kind of see him like, oh, is that like he's trying to butt in like, oh, is that how it's done? Like, or like, I'm like, yeah.
Well, and there'd be a couple times. There's a couple. Some of my favorite clips was they'd ask Conor a question, and he would just start going, just rambling, like losing the thread, like in the coke, and then all of a sudden Jake Gyllenhaal would have to rescue him, and he'd be like, yeah, like that. Like, it was just so funny. It's like, man, he's so far out of his element. Like,
it is wild.
He's so uncomfortable that like that's why he's all geeked out on coke, because he's just trying to get control.
It's wild to see that, and like, you see these movie stars and you think they're probably out of touch, but then you see Conor next to him and you're like, Jake Gyllenhaal is actually pretty cool. Like, he's pretty grounded,
Bro,
actually.
that just should tell you, like, this is what fighters are like.
Yeah.
Like, you think that, like, oh, man, movie stars, they're just crazy. They live these crazy lives and all this other stuff. And then you put them next to Conor McGregor or some, like, fighter, and you're like, man, this guy's really, like, even-tempered and, like, really measured guy.
I'd love to see somebody like the Conor version in the acting world, like, arguably Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you would say he's like the wild, like, he can't be nailed down.
Yeah.
Put them in a movie together. Like, see that, like, dynamic of them talking.
That would be so funny.
Like an acting roundtable.
That would be
like
so
how they
funny.
have legendary actors all talk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a cool, you see them like, oh, this is how I do it.
Yeah.
Like the older class and the newer class. Connor talking about acting.
Yeah.
I'm sure he probably starts to give advice now.
Oh, without a doubt.
He's probably like, no, you don't do the character like that. Like,
Of course. Well, what that would be like is, have you ever sat around a table? I might be telling on myself. Have you ever sat around a table with some people doing blow, and all of you are having a conversation, but nobody's listening? You're just sitting there talking. You're just sitting there. You're just sitting there talking, and you're having a great conversation. But you're also having a conversation with me. Yeah. But we're not talking at all. Like I guarantee you, it'd be like that.
Yeah, for sure. I've been around as a child. I've been around a lot of adult circles where they're talking. Yeah. I'm like, nobody's talking to one another, but they're all talking. What's going on?
It's like all you guys are saying a bunch of words, but nobody's listening.
And everybody is weirdly agreeing with everything.
Yeah, everybody.
I know you don't agree with that.
You're like, yeah. Bro,
it's a wild concept.
Yeah.
Speaking of like things that have been going on recently, I don't know. Are you a big movie watcher?
I like good stories. I was talking to somebody the other day. I was like, I like good stories. Like, I'm not a fan of like a particular movie
or movie star
genre or star or anything. It's like, I just want a good, like, I don't care what it is. If it's a good story, like I'll watch it. Like if it's a Disney movie with my kids and it's a good story, it's like I'm in for it.
Dude, Coco messed me up.
Yeah, bro.
Coco was. I went into it and I'm like, dude,
You weren't
no
ready.
Offense, American, so like not saying anything about Mexican culture or Spanish. Like I was like, I'm not gonna be able to relate to this because I don't know like the Day of the Dead faces, and I'm like, this is. Literally was so good. Yeah. I was.
Yeah, it's a great story.
I was like, how am I so hooked?
Yeah,
like, what is this? Yeah. Why no sequels to that? Yeah. That one's so good.
Well, to me, I'm like, leave it alone. It's a great story.
Yes, but I loved it so much. I was like, now I just gotta watch it again and again.
Yeah. Then you watch more. You watch it at the end, and it's like, I'm not crying. You're crying.
Yeah. I'm like, why are we crying?
Yeah.
Why is everybody crying?
Yeah, for sure, dude.
But then there'll be someone's and like. Dude, this is like the Taylor Swift of Disney movies, but like I don't get Frozen.
Oh yeah, I get it.
There's some characters in there where I'm like, I like this, but I'm like, I'm literally my eyes are bleeding watching it. I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah, that's just for children.
Yeah,
like my daughters are all about it. But the story is like, I don't get the story.
I'm like, can't we just do this and I'll fix it? And they're like, hey man, there's kids here watching this. Let it go.
I know. For sure.
But I saw Coco. It was at the. I can't remember how they name it. It's not movie. It's on the.
Oh, you saw it in a crowd in front of other people?
Yeah, it's the thing they do at the thing behind the Blue Water Stadium.
Oh,
like during the summer, they put like a movie up a month.
Yeah,
that's how I saw Coco, and I was like, we gotta watch this at the house too, because I'm missing some parts. Yeah, I got distracted about the snow cones and stuff, but this looks good. And I was like, slap just as hard at the house.
Yeah, for sure.
It's crazy, but like.
Yeah, I remember I watched Coco with my kids the first time.
Yeah,
and you get at the end and you're like,
you started crying. You're like, no, focus on the TV.
You're like, I'm gonna have to get up.
Yeah. Let me walk around real quick.
For sure. I think this is a feeling I'm having.
Yeah. It was so good though.
Yeah, dude.
But speaking of movies, I just saw the movie Heretic. Have you heard anything about this?
No.
Okay, look. No. Not obviously not a political.
No spoiler alert, but
or not a political. Well, we're not political, religious, not any of those things.
Yeah, it's satire.
Yeah, but this movie, and I really wasn't sure what the movie was before I went into it, so I had no idea really the plot. But it's like these two, and I didn't even know any other religion like did what Jehovah's Witness does. I thought that was the only religion where they go door to door. So I learned a little bit there.
Yeah.
But it's these two Mormon girls.
Okay.
And maybe if you know stuff about religion, you would have picked that up way sooner. But I didn't know that until they started talking about Mormonism.
Okay.
And I was like, who allows girls to go to doors? That seems
door to door like that. Yeah,
weird.
Yeah, Mormons do that.
Also,
they go on mission. That's what they call it.
Yeah. Also, the area. I'm like, they're at this house, not really people around. These two young girls. We're worried about them, right?
Yeah.
Why?
It's like, are we okay with this?
Yeah, and of course,
somebody give them an air tag or something? They got Find My Friends on or what?
Literally, there's things that I'm just alarmed. Of course, you're doing that like from your seat thing where you're like, nope, you shouldn't. Nope, don't do that. They did it.
So it's a horror movie?
It is, I guess you could call it a horror movie.
I'm picking up on it if you're going, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
That's normally my reaction when I'm watching a horror movie.
It's like a thriller that leads into a horror, but more like the first 45 minutes of it is all talking. And like nothing is really happening. But the talking is so good where you're like, the whole movie could be this.
Yeah, just like really good dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, the way the story is playing out in front of you, you're like, it's leading you somewhere. So it's the tenseness is building. That ain't how you say that, but I said it like that.
No, but yeah, I'm picking up what you're saying.
How do you...
The tension. But we can go tenseness.
Yeah, the tenseness.
Yeah.
Which is what tension really is. It's tenseness.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah, if we're... Look, I need to muddy it down for
listen, bro.
Our listeners are...
I don't disagree
my
at all.
speed. The tenseness building crazy pressure.
Yeah.
But the story is these two girls are, trying to spread the word of Mormonism. I guess, like, gather people to their congregation or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
They get to this house, and apparently Mormonism... Or I don't know if this is every religion, but if you're two girls, you can't enter the house unless there's a wife present. Or if it's a wife, maybe you can enter.
I don't know about that.
But it's got to be a female present.
That sounds interesting.
So it's just Hugh Grant there. He's the main guy. And I think these two female actresses are like unknown. I've never seen them in anything. Killed it.
Really?
They're very good. Everybody in the movie crushed.
Nice.
The movie's great. It's like, I think it's going to end up being like a cult classic that people look back on and try to mimic.
Really?
It's that good.
Yeah, I'll go check it out.
Yeah. But like the point of it is, he says, yeah, you can come in. And I thought maybe there was like something about like parallel to like vampires. And I'm like, he can't ask them to come in or something?
Yeah.
And so they come in and he is just promising them, oh, my wife's in the other room. She'll come in a second. She's not feeling well. And the whole thing is deception. Like, he is lying to them the entire time because he's trying to prove a bigger point, but you don't know that at first.
Okay.
You think he's genuinely going to try to, like, learn about their religion and, like, I don't know if he's going to get on or not. You don't know that.
Yeah.
But the entire time, he's starting to break down the constructs of like religion and how they're similar and like where maybe he thinks they got their idea from and like how they like repeat themselves through history.
Yeah.
But he does that in an example of, he's like, everybody knows Monopoly. I think actually the first thing he does it as an example of is the song Creep.
Okay. Yeah.
That is like, I guess, a reinterpretation of another song, All You Need Is Love. I never heard that before because, I grew up on Creep.
Right, for sure.
90s. Like, like Radiohead, all that stuff, like, that's what you hear. All I Need Is the Air That I Breathe, not All You Need Is Love.
I was going to say, All You Need Is Love is a Beatles song.
Yeah,
but I didn't know that.
But he's playing All I Need Is the Air That I Breathe. And it sounds similar, and you're like, oh, that is. Like,
yeah.
And
it's like same tune kind of thing.
Yeah, he's breaking that down, and he's like, that's at a kind of a direct interpretation. Then he brings up Monopoly. And he's like, everybody knows Monopoly, and you know it because it is like the Kleenex. It is the Sharpie. It is the thing you call. Anybody got Monopoly?
Yeah.
Apparently before Monopoly, there was a game called the Landlord's Game.
Oh, that was like the same thing.
That exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. He brings all this out.
They just branded it better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was a guy that had it, and it was maybe 100 years old at that time.
Yeah.
And then I think it was a Spanish guy came along and was like, I see what you're doing here. I'm literally going to put a monopoly on it.
Mm-hmm.
And did.
Yeah.
And it went crazy. And he's trying to relate that. He literally did like a landlord's game is like whatever this religion is. I can't remember the things, but I think Monopoly is Christian.
Okay.
And then I think the one after that, he does 3 big ones, but he's like, literally there's 12 to like 16 that he says they're all exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
They're all saying the same thing, and he's breaking down religion. And I didn't even know what the word heretic meant.
Yeah.
So I looked it up, and it's like to have. I'm gonna have to look it up again.
Yeah.
Because the definition is so different.
Yeah, it basically means like you believe something that's like unorthodox. Like, so there's an orthodox belief.
Yeah, and
which means like correct belief.
And what is that?
So it depends on how you use it. Like when
there's a definition to that.
Right, yeah. So like orthodoxy is like what it very simply means is like the correct way of believing, like the correct way of thinking, or correct way of believing. Like it's like
and so couldn't that be argued?
Right. Well, this is why whenever you have a conversation about like religion, like especially like religion, because that's like a big topic. Yeah. Like I always want to do 2 things. One of them's easy and one of them's hard. The easy thing
you
is...
sound like Hugh Grant in the movie. That's how he's doing it.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not because I haven't seen the movie. But the easy thing is to like define terms. Like when I say something, are we meaning the same thing or do we mean something different?
That's good.
Like that's an easy thing to do. The hard thing to do when you're talking about religion is to not be superficial with it, but to like actually... I want to have an honest conversation about this, because a lot of times when you're talking about religion, there's so much baggage that comes with it, because that, to me, like that's what religion does. It just all comes with a bunch of baggage. Yeah. And so like it's easy to stay in like some weird superficial places with religion and with that, but it's like, no, I would much rather have like an honest, like deeper conversation there that I think is way more valuable than, well, let's like this, well, religion XYZ, because like I don't know what this movie is or is referencing, but like you're absolutely correct, like there's tons of similarities in all kinds of religions, like all across the board, like lots of similarities. It's funny that I think it's easy to pick on Mormons because like their guy like wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, what is it,
Joseph Smith? Yeah.
Joseph Smith.
Yeah. Their guy wasn't that long ago, you know? And they've kind of had to like do some very public reiterations of their like orthodox like belief, or what they say is correct way of believing.
He gets into that. He's like, well, you're trying to do this Mormon thing. Can I ask you some questions about it? And they're like, of course. And he's like, well,
I bet Mormons loved that. Yeah. They're like, oh crap.
I think they knew as soon as he said that what he was about to ask. Yeah. He's like, how come polygamy was okay? Yeah. And it got rescinded. Like, why now it's not okay? Yeah.
Well, even like to get like really the ugly part of it is like even like what they believed about like black people, like.
They didn't talk about that.
Yeah, dude. Like they've had to really walk some things back. But it's hard, like when you have a religion like that, and you're like, well, that guy was like everybody knows that guy. Like he was just a normal dude, and he's like, hey, I found these tablets. Yeah, I found these things. And then when they outline like the size and the shape, as he's describing the size of the shape of the tablets and all that stuff, it's like, there's no way this information came from this amount of tablets that you're talking about. Yeah. It's like, it just doesn't mathematically make sense. And so like all of a sudden, like some of that stuff gets really, really like interesting, like not to like, completely trash Mormons or anything. But one thing that I think is really interesting is they think that one of the apostles, John, is still alive. Like right now, they think that he's still alive.
Does he know he is John?
He's supposed to, yeah. Like he's
and
John.
And he is not talking?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's why I'm like, well, is he a member of your church? They're like, well, no. And it's like, well,
It might not be the right John.
It's kind of hard. That's kind of hard thing to like kind of wrestle with a little bit. But that's what, like, religion is really, really messy. Like really, really messy.
It is. And I remember being younger and people asking me if I was whatever the thing was I was at. So are you Christian? Are you Catholic? Are you this? Are you that? And then I remember having like a falling out with the thing that I was at, which was Christian. It was Baptist.
Yeah.
And not having a good experience with the people. That didn't necessarily change the way I believe or the way I structured like my moralness or whatever. But I did have a better definition of like what I would consider. Are you religious? Do you believe? Do you have faith? I think all those in themselves are different.
All of a sudden that turns into a different thing.
Very.
Yeah. That's one of the things I think, one of my favorite jokes that I always hear is like there's two people that met and they're like in the conversation they figure out that like you're a faith person. It's like, oh yeah. It's like, oh, which one are you? It's like, oh, I'm Christian. It's like, oh, I'm Christian too. Are you Catholic or Protestant? It's like, oh, I'm Protestant. It's like, oh, I'm Protestant too. Like, what type of Protestant are you? It's like, I'm Baptist. It's like, oh, I'm Baptist too. What kind of Baptist are you? It's like, oh, I'm Southern Baptist. Or are you Southern Baptist or Northern Baptist? It's like, oh, I'm Northern Baptist. Oh, I'm Northern Baptist too. It's like, oh, are you this flavor of Northern Baptist or this flavor? It's like, oh, I'm Eastern Northern Baptist. It's like, oh, you're a heretic.
I had no idea there was even that many layers.
Oh yeah, and they instantly like, oh, well, you're the worst. You might be going to hell, brother. Sorry about that. Like, and it's like, whoa, well, you had all this in common up until this last second. It's like, that's, to me, I'm like, that's religion right there. That's excellent. Yeah. Like that's a perfect definition of what it is.
What is your take on like what would you call yourself as far as like, would you say you're religious or like, is there a different name for what you
So this is how I like to, this is why I like to define terms. Like, if a person asks me, am I religious?
Yeah.
Like, so I would probably on the face say, well, yes. Well, like, but what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Like, because for me, I try to make it like really clear that like I would consider myself like I want to try to be a follower of Jesus. Like, I'm a Jesus guy.
Yeah.
Like, not just what he taught, like the teachings I want to ascribe to. I hope I can emulate those things in my life. But like the teachings and the person, like that's what I'm about. Like religion, organized religion, this whole thing. Like, dude, I've been a pastor for over 15 years. Like, bunch of different flavors all over the place. It's like where I'm at right now is like, bro, I just want to follow Jesus. That's it. Like, all the other labels that exist and things like that, it's like I can sit down and we can have conversations about that. Like, if it's a person who's from a particular denomination or whatever theological conversation that they want to have, it's like, yeah, sure, I can sit there and we can have that conversation. But to me, it just boils back to, I think all that does is push me and you further apart. When it's like, when I look at Jesus, what like the radical teachings that Jesus has about like, hey, how about you love your enemies? Yeah. Like, how about love through pain and sacrifice produces the like life that we long for? Like, I'm there. That's what I want. Yeah. And so, like, a lot of the denominations that exist, or like Wellspring, I tell people like, we're a Jesus church. That's like, that's the type of church that we are. Like, that's what we care about, and that's it. Like, so they're like, so non-denominational. Like, people ask me, what type of church is it? And it's like, I know what you're asking. Like, you want to know like what flavor of Protestant we are. Like, what's our music like? Do you have Sunday? Like, there's a million things. All of that is like different ways that church is done or whatever. And I understand that. Like, dude, I've been in that forever. I get it. But for me, it's like, I really just want to focus on what are the teachings of Jesus? What did he teach? How can I emulate that in my life? Like, how can I, and how can I love people the way that he did and have his life like in me and through me? Because that's what I think the New Testament teaches. And so I'm like, that's where I'm at with all that. So if a person's like, hey, are you religious? I'll probably say, yeah. I mean, I'm a pastor, so probably. Like, some people would say professionally. Like, I'm professionally religious. Yeah. But it's like, well, let's talk about it.
What do you like to see, seeing how you are doing really good at like defining it, how would you start somebody if somebody's like, dude, I'm not religious, or I'm not in anything.
Yeah.
Like, I never really even shown anything. How do you kind of guide somebody to find what is going to make them feel fulfilled in something? Like, if somebody didn't know anything from anything and was like, I want to believe in something.
Yeah.
How do you do that? And I guess whenever you're dealing with people in your field or whatever, I don't know how you would word that.
Yeah.
You're
just
always going to want to witness to them and like kind of, I don't want it to come off like I'm saying this in a bad way, but you're always going to want to persuade them to go in a good direction, and everybody's always going to believe what they believe is the good direction.
For sure.
So how do you do that unbiasedly without being like, you can try all those other things, but this is the thing? Like, because sometimes that can taint somebody to be like, I like Brian, but he wouldn't even let me try something else.
Right, for sure. So,
and I don't know if that's a fair question.
No.
I don't know how to word
that. No, yeah, I think it's totally fine. Like Jesus does make exclusive claims. Like, it's one of the things that's really interesting is like, if I could talk to pretty much every, any person who follows any flavor of religion, and you talk about Jesus and they'd be like, oh yeah, like we're big Jesus fans. Jesus was great. Like also, but then when you go to Jesus is like, hey, it's only me though. Like, like I'm the way. Like I'm going to tell you, I'm the truth. I'm life. Like, but everybody else is like, oh no, yeah, Jesus is great. Like we have our own stuff that we're doing, but big fan of Jesus.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, well, everybody else is like, we have our thing, but Jesus is also good. And then when I go talk to Jesus, when I read what Jesus says, Jesus is like, it's just me, man. Like, it's only me. So there are exclusive claims that only Jesus makes about himself. And so, yeah, so there's going to be some exclusiveness to where it's like, yeah, I think Jesus is the way, the truth, and life. Like, I think that. And so there's exclusivity there. But how would I have a conversation with something like that? With anybody?
Like if they're wanting some direction, like for example, I'll give you some base on me. I don't know all the religions that believe in Jesus or God.
Yeah, right.
I know there are some that don't. And like I think some of those are pretty obvious, but like what are the main ones? Obviously Christian and Catholic, right? Are there other big ones that are like, hey, you might not pick ours, but like these are good? I don't know, like all the Jesus ones, I guess. Is
yeah, like the ones that attach themselves to Jesus.
I literally had knee surgery like 2 months ago. The lady doing my IV was like, "Why do you have that on your arm?" And I said, "This is the Virgin Mary," and she's like, "That's Our Lady of Guadalupe," and I was like, "Oh, well, to me, this is what this means, and this is why I have it because." I have a lot of women in my life, and I want this to be like do right by the women in my life, right? And like to respect women, and that's what it meant to me. And she's like, "Well, that's wrong. You need to change that." And I didn't take it personally per se, like, but I was like, I don't know that version, like her feeling on that or her like this means something different to me, and I'm like,
and she's like, "Oh, but that's wrong."
Yeah, she's like, you should probably change that up a little bit because that's not what you believe in. And I was like, I didn't say anything past that, so how do you know what I believe in?
So how I have those conversations. So there's a story in the New Testament. It's in the Gospel of John, and Jesus has been walking like with his disciples for miles. They're headed to a spot, and they on their way. He says like, "Hey, we need to go through Samaria." And it was like, let's not do that. Because, like, Jews and Samaritans, like, they had, like, this harsh racial, like, religious feud, Jews said, you worship here. Samaritans say you worship somewhere else. It all has to do with, like, Old Testament stuff. But anyway, so he's like, hey, we're going to go through Samaria. And his disciples are like, I don't think we should do that. He's like, yeah, we're going to go. And so they're walking. And it gets to a spot, and he's like, he sends his disciples to go grab some food. He's like, hey, we've been walking for a minute. You guys go to the village over there and go grab some food. And he sits down at this well, and it's in the middle of the day, and this woman comes walking up to get water from this well in the middle of the day. That's not the time that you would go get water. Like if you're a woman to go fetch water, you want to go in the morning when it's cool, not in the heat of the day. So that gives you some context about like maybe who this woman is, like what her reputation might be. Like she's not going when all the other ladies go. She's going on her own time, you know? And so Jesus is just sitting there at the well with her and says like, hey, why don't you give me a drink? And she was like, why are you talking to me?
Yeah.
You know, which is like, to be honest with you, a normal conversation that I try to avoid sometimes. Like I don't wear like, I'm Pastor Brian on my sleeve because I want to have like normal conversations with people.
For sure.
But like I've had conversations with people where it's like, oh, you're a pastor? Like, what are you doing here? Like, or what are you doing talking to me? Like, and it's just one of those things where it's like, well, I'm just trying to talk to you, like having a normal conversation.
Yeah.
Like a person. So Jesus is like, hey, why don't you get me a drink? And he's like, why are you as a man talking to me, a woman, and you're a Jew and I'm a Samaritan? Like, why would you do that? And he just says like, well, if you knew who I was, like, you would ask me for a drink.
Yeah.
And I would give you living water. Like, and she was like, kind of blows her away. And she's like, what's this living water? And he's like, if you drink this water, you're going to be thirsty again. But if you drink the water that I give you, you'll never be thirsty ever again. And like, that's the conversation to have with people, I think. It's like, hey, if you keep on doing this, you're just going to be thirsty over and over and over again. Like, but Jesus says, if you drink the water that I give you, you'll never thirst. In fact, if you drink the water that I give you, that water will become a well in you, springing up to just endless life, and more life. And so he's talking to this woman, and he's like, this is a normal thing. You're here at the well. You're thirsty. You're always going to be thirsty. But he's not talking about just being thirsty. He's talking about life. Like, you're always going to be thirsty. It's like, wouldn't it be nice to not always feel thirsty all the time? Like, that's the conversation. So when I have conversations with people,
good, like, analogy for that. Like, that exactly explained what I think you were trying to translate there.
Nice. Cool.
That was very good.
Yeah. So, but those are the conversations I have with people, no matter where they are with religion. Yeah. Like they have no idea about religion, or maybe this person's like super religious. It's like, don't you want to not be thirsty? Like, like, do you wouldn't that be great?
Do you ever meet somebody and they're like pretty deep, like time wise into another religion, and maybe you're cool with them? Do you ever like try to win them over? Like you're like, I see what you're doing over there.
Yeah. Like I have conversations with people.
You care.
Yeah, I have conversations with, well, just because I think it's interesting too. It's like, I don't know everything about every religion. Yeah, I don't know everything about every person. Like, I don't know everything about you. And you and I have been friends and hanging out for a while. Yeah. But it's one of those things, like, I think people are interesting. Like, I think it's good to be curious about people, just in general. Yeah. And so, yeah, if you believe something different than me, like, I might ask you some questions because I want to know about it. Yeah. It's like, why do you think that way?
Yeah, I think you can learn from everybody. That, like, one of the questions I think I had, and you've explained a little bit about it, but like the difference between religion and faith. Mm-hmm. Like, I think you can have faith without any religion because you can have like a personal relationship. Also, I feel like faith is one of those things where it's not exactly based on God or whatever you would want to call those other things. Like, yeah. You can have faith in something or somebody. Like, I believe this is going to happen.
Yeah, faith is an interesting word. I think a lot of people, when we use a word like faith and we talk about it, we think of like ascribing to a list of like beliefs. Like, oh yeah, I have faith because like I agree with this, like these things about religion or these things about my church or whatever it is. Like, oh yeah, I have faith. Yeah. But it's like, I don't think that faith is like mentally ascribing to like a set of beliefs of like, do you think these are true or false? Like, I don't think that's faith. Like, I think faith is most appropriately understood as like a verb. Like, like faith isn't something that I ascribe to. Faith isn't something that like, oh yeah, my life is good, so like I have faith that like things are going to be great. Like, Faith to me is for when life is hitting the fan at like 100 miles an hour and everything seems to be spiraling out of control. And if you are a person, you experience that. Like, not like, oh yeah, I experienced that once. It's like, bull crap. Like you experience that all the time where it's life is hitting the fan, don't know what to do with this. Like, that's what faith is for. Like, that's what faith is. It's like, okay, what am I going to actively hold on to? Like, it's not, oh yeah, I agree with these statements that my church say, so I have faith. It's like, that's just like a real mental agreement to something. Like, what I read in the New Testament when Jesus talks about faith, like when he, with his disciples, when he goes, why don't you have any faith? It's because it's hitting the wall. They're in the middle of a storm on a boat and they're freaking out and they're like, we're gonna die. And he's like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, where's your faith? That's when he asks the question. Not like, I'm gonna teach something and then go, don't you guys agree with me? Great, you have faith because you agreed with me. Like, that's not how he talks about it. Like, so like when you talk about faith, like, faith's a verb. Like, it's, I'm going to actively cling to this when, like, it's hitting the fan really hard and it's spiraling out on me and I don't know what to do. Like, this is faith.
I think something that is so beautiful about, I mean, life in general plays into like how differently language can be interpreted. Like, for example, my entire life I've always believed faith is like having a trust in something bigger than you. Whether that's, you believe the universe, you believe like the law of attraction, you believe in God, you believe in your dad is going to be there, like whatever the thing is. So
which that's certainly an aspect of it. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, well, that's not faith. I think it's just most appropriately understood. Like, clearly understood. It's like, when life is hitting the fan, this is what I'm going to hold on to. And this is what faith is. Like, when I'm, there's a old example that, like, you talk about a chair. It's like, I walked in and I saw this chair and I could be like, that chair is going to hold me up. Like, that's a good chair from probably Walmart or made in China or whatever. It's like, I bet that chair will hold 190 pounds. Like, totally. And it's like, I can know everything about this chair, where you bought it from, all this other stuff. But like, faith is, I'm going to sit in this chair because it's going to hold me up. Like, that's what it is.
Without question.
It's like, I'm not worried that this chair is going to fall apart on me.
I literally never think about that.
I just sat in it. That's faith. I'm just going to sit in this. And so, to me, I think what's real and true is when life is hitting the fan for me, I can sit in the things that Jesus has taught in the New Testament and go, this is what I'm going to sit in. Like, because it's not just words, it was very much action too. And it's like, okay, I think there's something true about this that's like a really deep, like, soul level kind of true that resonates in me differently than like 2 + 2 is 4. Like, there's something really true about this that's resonating in me in a way that I can't even fully express sometimes. So like, this is what I'm going to sit in. It's like, this is who Jesus is. So that's where I'm at.
I think it's also important to know, like, not everything is always going to be positive, like, or it's not going to feel that way.
No, of course.
I think that's the general idea of the world that maybe had a bad taste or isn't, or I don't know, isn't headed in that direction that they're aware of. Like, I think everybody thinks that if you are quote unquote religious, or you are in a religion and you, like, that's one of your known characteristics. I think people think that the people in those religions, I think you're a very good example of that is not the case. But like, I think people think those people are, of course, holier than thou.
Oh, they're cured.
Everything is always going right.
Everything's great for them.
But I don't think people are people. No matter, it doesn't matter if you're the richest person in the world or the poorest person in the world. everybody's going to have happiness. Everybody's going to have stability or instability in certain areas. And like, but I think as like a natural, regular human, everybody just assumes everybody got it better.
Yeah. So like, so this is kind of what the New Testament teaches. So like the worst thing that's ever happened would be the murder of the Son of God. Be the worst thing that's ever happened. Now, what the New Testament teaches is with the death of Jesus, like he died in my place, like so I can he died in my place so I can live in his, right? And so the worst thing that's ever happened is the murder of the Son of God. But the best thing that's ever happened is the death of the Son of God. Like, and so if God can take the worst thing and turn it into the best thing, like, yeah, when bad stuff happens in your life, which is gonna happen, life is hard, it's full of pain. Most people don't know what to do with it, and so they just hurt other people, and there's all kind of unresolved mess that happens. Like, if God can take the worst thing and turn it into the best thing, when you're in what feels like the worst thing, like God has a funny way of being capable of turning those things into the best thing and going like, no, I learned a ton from that. And now I'm this different version of myself that if I look back is like much more mature or humble or honest or whatever than the previous version of me. Yeah. But I had to go through this really dark, nasty thing. It's like, that's why like the story of the New Testament, like the story of Jesus, like resonates so much with people. It's like, this guy didn't do anything wrong. Like, he was the only guy going around going like, love your enemies. Like, no one said that. Like, yeah. He's going around doing that. Everybody wants to kill him. Like, he gets betrayed by his best friends. Like, one of his best friends betray him. And then he gets murdered. Like, and everyone knows he's innocent. And there's one moment where they're like, hey, do you guys want us to let Jesus go? And they're like, no, give us that thief instead. Like, so he gets one opportunity to get out of it, and they go, no, that's it. Yeah. And then he gets killed publicly, like humiliated publicly. And you're like, that's the worst thing that's ever happened. But then the dude doesn't stay dead. Like, he comes out of the grave a couple days later, and it's like, is this the best thing that's ever happened? Like, yeah. So, like, that's what like speaks so loudly to like people, because it's like, man, that's life sometimes. Like, yeah. I feel that, like, where I'm like, this is the worst thing that I could ever imagine. And then there's a part of you, or maybe it's an idea, or maybe like we talked about before, it's a version of a person, or maybe a version of yourself you had in your head, and like that just had to go. Yeah. Like, so you could accept like, oh, here's this new thing that's like actually real or true. That's much better than this idea that I had in my head. Yeah. So that's like, I don't know.
I think there's some really good examples in life. I mean, pretty much every life goes through that, and you can see like how the world idolizes like celebrities, and you can often see them fall off. But a lot of the time, or at least now in cancel culture, like, here at this podcast, we're big comedian fans.
Yeah, for sure.
If somebody gets canceled, used to mean different things in different fields, but it seems like if you get canceled as a comedian, bro, you're about to be slingshotted.
Yeah,
like,
it's like, hey, this is gonna be great. This is gonna be great for you.
Yeah, because like people love the story of the badness. Like, they're attracted to the drama. They like can't get enough of that, and then that in itself grows the person. Like, whether or not the person themselves gets better and learns and whatever, but the size of the exposure goes crazy.
Yeah. Which ideally, though, like that's what happens, is like you actually grow and develop, and all those other things. It's a reason why, like if you screw up, like let's say you legitimately screw up, when you go like, I mean, I didn't really. Like, it wasn't me. I had to because of XYZ. Yeah. Everybody goes, ew. Yeah. Like, gross. But if you really screw up and you go, that was me, and I did it because of this, and this, and that was bullshit. Like, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Everybody goes, you're okay, man.
Yeah.
Like people are attracted to that.
Yeah.
And it's like,
it's the genuineness of ownership.
Yeah. And it's like, hey, guess where I learned that?
Yeah.
Like I learned that from Jesus.
Yeah.
Like that's where I learned that from. Like, and everyone's drawn to that.
Even if you're not a religious person, I think there's something about being in the world of religion that I don't think can necessarily be looked at as a negative. Like if people do look at it as a negative, there's so many good things that you can pull from in it. You become, in general, a better person.
Yeah.
Like you never normally get in a religion and become a shit person.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Like, even like there are a million of examples of how religion has harmed someone. And like maybe you, or maybe like, yeah, specifically you were talking about like, yeah, I had a falling out with the people that I wasn't jiving with that. Like that was probably a religious thing, or a religious person did something really crappy to you.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, that sucks. Like that story can be repeated ad nauseum forever.
There's bad people everywhere.
Over and over and over and over and over again. But you're not wrong. Like there is something beneficial to like discipline and all those things that are encompassed in religion.
Yeah.
And so like I don't like, obviously I don't speak for religious people in Pensacola. If you've met religious people in Pensacola, they'd be like, we don't, not that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're pretty worldly.
But
You know?
yeah, I've been told that.
You're a sinner.
I've been called much worse. Yeah. So I wouldn't speak for all of them, but like, yeah, I think there's something to that discipline that I would like, I have respect for.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's hard. Like, yeah, that really adds value to you. That helps build you up as a person. For me, what I pay really close attention to is like, what is that doing for me? What is that discipline doing for me? Like, is it elevating my ego to where I can go, oh, well, this guy's a sinner. Oh, well, this guy's not just like me, or this, or is it like plunging me and pushing me further into this idea that Jesus in the New Testament teaches of grace, where it's like, here's this discipline, or here's these aspects that might be making me a better person, but it's like, but the reason why I'm becoming a better person isn't because like I'm going to knock it out of the park all the time. Like, bro, I will let you down 100%. Like that will happen. But it's like, it's kind of like the core message of the gospel, like is grace. It's like Jesus is all, like, that's the only hope and chance I have. And so, like, while I really respect like a lot of the discipline that comes with different religions and things like that, it's like, man, I just want to pay attention to like, what's that doing to me? Yeah. Like, is that making me look down at other people, or is that making me go like, man, I have found this thing and it has been so helpful to me, and like, how can this find expression in my life where other people can experience maybe some of like being loved by, how can I express love to a person that I don't even really know? Yeah. Like, and no strings attached. Just like, no, this is just, I'm just going to, or how can I be open-handed with like forgiving someone, or being kind, or being patient, or being all these different things that like, the New Testament teaches about. It's like, well, I want that to find expression in my life, not because I'm better than you, like, but because like, no, like it's good for me if I'm kind, if I'm patient, like if I can express love to other people, because these are the things that I've experienced. Like, these have been shown to me, so I want to show them to other people. Yeah. Like, the thing that gets really screwed up with religion is like some of the most unkind people I've ever met, like, go to church on Sunday morning. Like, some of the most impatient people you'll ever meet is at a restaurant on Sunday afternoon after church, when they're trying to eat, and they treat like servers like and bartenders like crap. It's like, so how the hell does that make any sense? It's like, well,
it is wild. Like, I think that's why I didn't necessarily take anything personal from what I believe in, or change like my thought process on that. I just believed like you're gonna run into maybe not a right situation or right person, but I don't I don't think it was like the religion's fault
Mm-hmm.
or like the person I believe in's fault
Yeah,
or
yeah.
the thing I believe in. Like I just felt like wasn't right person, right time situation, or like it's different.
It wasn't just being open-handed with people, knowing that, like, dude, people have bad days. People are looking for something. Like, man, people are looking to feel validated, or people are looking to feel respected, or people are looking to feel important, or something like that.
Also, you don't know that. What, like, I don't know how your day was before you met me today.
Mm-hmm.
I know we texted a little, but I don't know what has happened to you. If you're in a good mood before you got here, bad mood.
Right.
Same thing you don't know about me.
Yeah.
Like, same thing you don't know about how these people's lives were before they interacted with mine.
Mm-hmm.
And also within the situation, like, I don't know their thought process on what they're bringing to the table for the situation or what they think of me. And I have a thought of how I think this should go, and it might not be exactly how they think, and it doesn't work. People will throw everything in their life away over something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll blame what could be ultimately a great thing on a single situation, and that will burn it to the ground completely and close the door on. And this isn't just religion. This could be on like a person in your life, a friendship, a work opportunity. But you'll like, because somebody did something that maybe they're not even proud of.
Right. I'm gonna let that define you in my head forever.
Yeah, and you're now labeled that, and that's done, and it's over with.
I mean, I'd be like, I do that crap.
But you won't do that in a positive way. It's crazy. Like if somebody does something that, like, somebody brings you a coffee and you're having like a weird day, and you're like, they didn't have to do that. You don't like, well, that is now a great person forever.
Yeah, this person is great forever. It's like, well, they're nice until they get on my shit list, and then they've
done something nice. But you don't do that if they do something.
If they do something bad, you're just like, oh, this person is bad.
Out of your light or out of your favor, you're like, oh, I think they might be a bad person.
Like I suck at this. I really suck at this, and I'm actually teaching this weekend, and I'm gonna tell everybody I suck at this. But like, there's a passage that I'm teaching in the New Testament where it talks about how, like, kind of like your identity, like who you are, like, and this is like a kind of a theological idea in the New Testament. It's like I get, like I'm in Christ and Christ is in me, right? So this is why this is a huge idea. Mm-hmm. So if I think that Christ is in me, like, or I think Christ is in you, like, what if I related to you and reacted to you like you were Jesus, if he's in you? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, so I come home from work and, you know, like, the house is a wreck. And it's like, well, why is the house a wreck? And it's like, well, Jesus is like, man, I was worn out. And you're like, well, if it was Jesus that was like, I was just worn out, you'd be like, I can help. Don't worry.
Yeah, no worries.
Like, you're fine.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Or it's like, oh, here's this coworker, whatever it is. Like, you just, if I related to you as if like you were Jesus, like all of a sudden that's going to change the way I like behave in the world and react a little bit. Cause it's like, well, I would want to be kind to Jesus. I would want to be patient with him. I'd want to be XYZ, you know, whatever. It's like, hey, can I help? Oh, hey, do you need this? Or, hey, like, oh, I'm just feeling, hey, don't worry about it. Like, that's how I would react. I would hope I would react to him. But to you, I'd be like, friggin' clean. Why didn't you do the dishes? Take out I told you to take out the trash, you idiot. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, whoa,
whoa. Get this right.
Yeah. So it's like, whoa, this. So maybe there's something to this. If I would, like, this whole, like, oh, well, Christ is in people. And like, okay, so how should I relate and talk to this person? Yeah. Again, let me say, I suck at that. But it's like, man, there's something to that. Like, if I could believe that a little bit, because I think that's where the disconnect is like, I have a hard time believing that, like, oh, like, Christ is in this person. Yeah. But if I believed that,
you're like, not in this.
Yeah, not that guy. But if I believed that, like, I would behave differently, probably. Like, at least I'd have a better shot at behaving a little differently. But the problem is I have a hard time believing that. And so since I have a hard time believing that, I suck at it sometimes. Yeah. But I want to try to be better at it. But if I'm going to be better at it, I don't need to try to be kinder to you. I need to try to believe. I need to believe more. Like that's where I need to put effort in. Like I want to believe that Christ is in a person, not try to be kinder, because that means I'll be kinder for like 30 minutes till I'm hungry. Like, you know what I mean? And then I won't be kind anymore. So it's like, okay, so I need to spend more effort on believing than behaving. But religion just wants to affect your behavior. Like, you should stop doing these things and start doing these things. And it's like, I'm going to tell you, that's not going to work. That doesn't work for anybody.
That was like to kind of give up the spoiler for the movie, like that was the plot point at the very end, his point of like, this girl works through the whole entire story. There's two of them. One of them dies, potentially.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. And at the end, he's like, why are you here? And she says, I'm only here because this is exactly where you wanted me to be, exactly at this moment, having this exact conversation. And he's like, exactly. And he's like, what do you think religion is? And his point is that religion is control, and that's what they all have in common. But that is what he was trying to get out of them the whole time.
Yeah.
So he gave them like doors to go through, but to say, like you just said, like the control thing, like I think that is what the movie is boiling down to say, but which is wild that they went so hard and could go so hard on so many different religions without it getting like pulled or something before it was finished. But I think my take on everything is, I think religion in general, I don't know all of them, of course, but I think it's a good blueprint on how to move and act in life. Like it teaches good morals, manners, like if you act through what is taught.
Yeah.
Not just if you go or whatever. Like I think it is a good structure. Maybe I don't believe in everything that is taught in every single way or lesson.
Yeah, for
sure. I don't think anyone like subscribes completely and like everything. I mean, maybe there are people that just.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I say at Wellspring, like this series we've been teaching through is called Jesus is blank. So I've been teaching through a particular letter in the New Testament called Colossians, but the whole idea is like Jesus is blank. And it's like, what do you put in that blank? Like, and so my whole aim for the series is like, I just want you, I'm going to teach through this. And what I want you to do is I want you to wrestle and I want you to struggle and I want you to discover for yourself who Jesus is to you. Like what you put in that blank. Like that's what I want. Like I want you to wrestle and struggle and discover for you, because it doesn't matter what I say to you. Like, because I'm at a very different place than you are.
Yeah.
So what I say is like irrelevant to you. It's like, we're going to read and teach through this. Yeah. And then I want you to really wrestle and struggle with this idea. Like, so you can discover for you. Yeah, not so because I said so. Like, who cares? Like, I disagree with myself all the time.
Yeah.
Like, so it's one of those things like, no, you need to wrestle and discover for yourself. Yeah. And what I think is really interesting, particularly about Jesus, is that, like, whatever deep desire I'm feeling, like, oh man, I wish I was, like, I wish I felt important. I wish I felt significant. I wish I felt respected. I wish I belonged. We all have like these really deep desires. Like, one of the really interesting things about Jesus is that, like, man, he meets you in those spots. I think, like, I'm a Jesus guy. Like, I think the dude rose from the dead. I think he's alive, like, which is wild. And I think that, like, you can know him, and I think that's where he wants to meet you at, is those spots where it's like, I feel abandoned. It's like, oh, I feel like Jesus could be like, I know that feeling. Like, I was naked and nailed to a cross, brother. Like, I know what that feels like. So, like, that's what I think is really cool about Jesus versus, like, religion. Not to completely, like, say, like, religion totally sucks. But I do think that there is a big aspect of control in that. But when I read the New Testament, I feel like Jesus is a big freedom guy. And so it's like, okay, well, how do I reconcile these two things like together? And so I think it's a struggle. I think it's like, for me personally, like it's messy. Like I tell people all the time, it's like, man, my relationship with Jesus is messy. like it is a messy one. Like I am up, down, left, right, all over the place. I do not behave perfectly. Like I struggle and I doubt and I do all those things. But like, I feel like that's it. I feel like wrestling and struggling is like part of it.
Yeah.
Like when I meet somebody and they're like, no, my life's wonderful and like Jesus is just amazing to me all the time. And I'm like, you're not a real person. Stop playing this character.
Yeah.
Like, you hate your husband. Like, it's okay. Like, let's talk about it. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, don't pretend.
I think it is very important. Like, everybody has a different relationship, and it's okay to have whatever your relationship is with whatever you believe in. Like, for example, I'm sure we both love Hilton. But when we say, I love you, Hilton, we mean it differently.
Well, and you know Hilton differently than I know Hilton.
Yeah, I love
him. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Love him.
Yeah, I love him too.
To death. Come soon.
Yeah, no.
I'm kidding.
No, I mean, that's not a terrible example at all. I think
and just like me and him both love you, I'm sure it's different. Like, it's, everybody can be the same, but it's like where you're at in that love or belief or faith or whatever you have.
Yeah. It's
okay to be there. Like you're not wrong for whatever you feel. Just don't feel bad.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things that like I think like there'd be a bunch of pastors in town probably want to like run me out of town or tell me that I'm terrible, but like I think you should discover who Jesus is to you. Like I think that there's places that you can go for that. I think there's a good book to read for that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think you should give it a read if you're like, oh no, I've never. There's a lot of people that's like, oh, I don't believe in Jesus. It's like, have you ever read the New Testament? And they're like, well, no. I'm like, well, that's weird. Like, you should probably just give it a read a little bit. Yeah. So I think there's a place to read for that. I think there's places you can go. I think there's people that you can talk to for that. But I think that you should really wrestle and struggle and discover for you. Yeah. Like, and I'm not afraid to say that. Yeah. I think there might be some pastors afraid to say, no, you should listen to me. It's like, okay, like I think that's a waste of time. I think you should discover for you. Like, I think that's a good thing to go.
I think it was Styx, but that song, You Can Go Your Own Way.
Go your own way.
Yeah, I think that is a perfect example of how you should take whatever you learn in life. Like, go your own way, but.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like, lots of people resent like maybe their past or like the cards they've been dealt or like how hard life is. Like a lot of people resent that. I feel like all of those are just really unique ways that like Jesus tries to meet us like in our life. Like we have not had the same life. How could you and I like,
I mean, even if we're siblings, we don't have the same life.
I know. I have 2 younger brothers. Like how could like, we have not had the same life. How could we have the same exact experience? Like the same exact, like, oh yeah, well, this is the same for everyone. Yeah. It's like, I think Jesus is way more interesting than that. Like, I think and I'm not afraid to say, yeah, go read about him. Like, I think that's good. Yeah. Like,
well, I appreciate you sharing like your thoughts on that. Like, I definitely wanted to talk to you about that movie and like that idea. And
you should have told me. I would have tried to see it or bootleg it or something.
Yeah, it's in theaters. And it was very short notice. I'm sorry about that. But I saw it and immediately was like, the movie is so well done, so well written, that I think anybody could watch it and not take like insult to it because of, I don't know, it's deeper than just how I've explained it, I'm sure. But I thought it was really cool to get your like take on that and like, also to see your side on like how you believe and what you believe in.
Yeah.
Because I think you're a really good person to look at because.
Oh, that's nice.
You're not one of those fake front people where you're like showing one thing but you really are something else. I feel like
I did that for a long time, man. Yeah. I did that for a long time, and then you just realize that like there's just no life here. This is empty.
Yeah.
Like I thought it wasn't supposed to be like this.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, just don't pretend. It's like. Being religious and pretending is stupid. Like, you're just going to mess yourself up and other people up. Like, just don't pretend.
Yeah. I think you're a good example of that.
Thanks, man.
I think that was like important to hear for anybody that was curious about that topic. I think you did it really well.
Cool. Thanks, dude.
I can't thank you enough for coming on. I know it was short notice. If you want a Jesus Peace tattoo, I'm going to give a little ad read real quick.
Yeah. Johnny Mumbles.
Johnny Mumbles at Sacred Grounds Tattoo Studio, which is, I'm sure, like a ode. I don't know if it's tied at all to religious, but Sacred Ground sounds religious.
That sounds.
I'm bringing it.
There's a story about that.
There's something to it. Yeah. But he does amazing work. He's about to finish my back. Hilton's gonna get his sleeve finished here pretty soon. You got a few tattoos, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So I mean, why not get more?
Yeah, why not?
That is a perfect dude. Johnny Mumbles, amazing work. All you got to do is hit him up on Instagram or go see him in person. His studio is amazing. It's right off of, right in front of the 3 Mile Bridge. It's one of those that sits right behind the white Rolls Royce, but the view he has from his loft is
beautiful
crazy.
Right there. Yeah.
Crazy. It's insane, and it's always pretty. Even if it's storming, it's such a good look. Nothing like gets in the way of it. But Johnny Mumbles, Sacred Grounds Tattoo Studio. Hit them up on Instagram. Amazing stuff. You get to see their entire portfolio on either one of them things. All the artists there, Shay, Mackenzie. I don't know if anybody is coming soon. I think they might be done with guest spots for the year. Might be at the beginning of the year for the next one, but be on the lookout on their Instagram stories. They're always shouting out people and things to come, but can't thank you enough for coming on.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for the invite.
Appreciate that.
Anytime.
We love you all. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. We're out of here. Yee!